Hello and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two we've read. I'm your host Scott, but I'm not alone. Toby's here too. This episode, we're talking about Neil Gaimans' Sandman Vol.1, Preludes and Nocturnes. This can be a fairly spoiler-heavy episode, but if that's okay with you, continue on, and I'll see you on the other side.
There's a bit of you keep distorting in and out, so on my end anyway.
Really sure we can do about that.
Not a lot.
Yeah. Talk about stuff that has such a fan base that it's going to upset someone. Neil Gaiman's The Sandman has got a sort of Netflix TV show coming out this year.
Yes, it does indeed.
You've read a few. You've read all of them?
No, I have read. So I have the Absolute Edition. Feels like a leather-bound hardback, slip-cased version of volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4. I have only read volumes 1.
You've only read Preludes and Nocturnes?
Yes, but I didn't realise that Preludes and Nocturnes. Preludes and Nocturnes takes up a third of the volume 1 book.
My one volume is Preludes and Nocturnes is volume 1.
Okay, yeah.
You're talking about like collections.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. And you also got the recent audiobook, huh?
Yep.
Which is all 3 as well.
No, I've read. Yes, it is all 3, I believe.
How's the audiobook?
It was good. It was
stuff.
Yeah, really good voice actors. Like Neil Gaiman's like the narrator over the top, and then you've got people like James McAvoy, Charles Dance.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so there's some really good.
I don't know if that's the same team that did Neverwhere. The BBC did a great production of the Neverwhere, full cast with Neil Gaiman, I think. Channeling and writing and stuff, which was really good. I enjoyed.
I haven't listened to that.
It's really good. I really like that. I listened to that a bunch of times, I think.
Yeah, I know it's really good. I quite like the use of sound effects in it and stuff like that. Because I haven't listened to an awful lot of audiobooks. Where they do a really good theatrical version of it and bring in all these external, is it non-diegetic sounds? Diegetic sounds?
They basically make a radio. It's more of a radio play than the audiobook.
It's really good. It's very impressive. So
is McAvoy in the TV show? Because I know Charles Dance is.
No.
Okay.
I may be muzzling all of those up together and putting them all in the same thing. Maybe Charles Dance is in the Netflix show and not in the book, but that will be one for the viewers to or listeners to digest.
Untangle on our behalf.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is your first read because you've read Doll's House before this one?
I have no idea. When I was a kid and I discovered that I like comics, but I couldn't afford comics, and the library had a graphic novel section, it just had 4, 5, 6 random Sandmans, and I would like indiscriminately just get out the random ones again and again. I think, I don't know, I've never really got into buying the editions of comics ever.
No,
they just seem too small.
Yeah.
And when I was that young, these compendiums or volumes, what have you, were too expensive. I guess there was this mix of like, if you can read it in an hour, how much should it be worth? Sort of thing. I don't know. I'm not saying that's fair enough, of course, but when you're that young,
that's
$15 for a graphic novel is far too much. It's more than I probably felt like I'd get in trouble if I spent that much being that young, like £1 a week pocket.
And I think that carries over to every version of this book, of which there are a plethora of versions. It's ridiculous how many times this has been re-released. Like you've got the softback there, like that's collects.
And this is a re-edition. This is talking about like from the author of the Graveyard Book and Coraline, and this isn't. And
then you've got the original comic release, then the first version of that, the second version of that, the Absolute Sandman edition, the annotated Sandman edition, the Ultimate Sandman edition, all in hardbacks, all different versions, all costing varying degrees in price. Like the Absolute editions, when I first bought them, were about 70 quid.
Crikey.
Yeah. So I've got 4 of them, and you're lucky now if you can get one under 100 quid because they're so
okay,
hard to get hold of.
a bit limited.
And then I've also got the special edition bookends that were bought by my ex many years ago when they first came out. And they were 180 quid, and now they're worth well over £1,000. So
crikey, what are they like? The characters?
It's Sandman and Death.
Sandman's Dream, right?
Yeah, Dream. Okay. Yeah, so it's Dream and Death, either side, sitting, looking cool. So my introduction, the way that I found the Sandman, I originally read Death, the High Cost of Living.
Is that one of these?
No, it's an off. It was written, believe it was written after the Sandman, but it's Death in her own comic.
Okay.
Focuses on her, and it's really, really good. And I fell in love with her as a character, like literally was besotted with her. I read it when I was quite young. I say quite young. I was probably 17, 18, so not that young. But I was, that was like, whoa, that's who I want to marry. This somebody that's like that. So I became obsessed with it, and then I searched out anything else that had her in it, and then I found the Sandman.
You hit the jackpot then.
Yeah.
Well, this is just like a snapshot, like a thing you were reading. I don't know how like big and epic it was.
It's got its own absolute edition, so it's pretty big.
Okay.
And I then turned it into a short film. So
I think I saw that once.
Attached a link to that in the description below if you want to view the short film that I made about high cost of living.
Am I right? You were speaking with Neil Gaiman directly on that one, just for
yes, that's a good point actually.
Copyright use or something.
Yes, when I was doing my university course, I wanted to turn this into a short film, and I emailed him within half an hour. He'd email back saying as long as I stuck to the outline that I put in my email, he was more than happy for me to use his work and turn it into a short film. And then I saw him about 5 years later, or 4 years later, at a book signing and a book reading for the Graveyard Book when that was released.
Did you?
No, it was at Oceans at the end of the lane.
Okay.
And I listened to that, and then I bought 2 copies of the book, so I took them up to get them signed. And when I was up there, I spoke to him and said, I sent you an email about 5 years ago, to which you replied and gave me a thing. I got a first for it. And he goes, well, that's the main thing. Glad you got a good result out of it. And that was it.
Nice.
There's my little anecdotal flail of Neil Gaiman. And I think the guy's a genius.
Read
most of his stuff.
We really need to review American Gods sometime. I know it's not your favorite, but I think I love that one. We should dive into it sometime, but another time. Yeah,
Neil Gaiman. Take it because
no. I've been editing a bunch of our stuff, and I'm sick of my voice, Toby. This is Toby. You have spent I don't know, well over $200 on the Sandman collecting. You have the figurines, which are now like collectors. You're going to get some sort of Sherlock Holmes villain breaking into your house. They're so collectible. I read random ones as a kid. Some I liked. Like one I loved, Brief Lives, which is like volume 7. So much that as an adult, I bought that one because I remembered it. And the rest are a blur to me.
Yeah.
I do remember the library lady. Like maybe this was fairly new when graphic novels were starting to make a stand as not Beano or Spider-Man comic. So I remember her having the conversation of, oh, you like these? They call them graphic novels. They're a bit older. Are you old enough for these? Like explaining to me what they were. And I'm like, look, lady, look at the pictures. It's comics and shit. But I do see a point, like this series has not sex, but like, there's violence. I'd say they're young adult.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe by today's standards, being that kids are out there watching like The Dark Knight and stuff. The threshold has changed. But when I was a kid, these were not even on the edge. I think my parents literally would have just said, I don't know, during the comic book, we don't have to monitor that, because they weren't aware of what graphic novels were. And it's not
there's outright horror.
Yeah. It's very, I'm super interested to see what the TV show does. I think this might be unfilmable personally.
Well, this is the thing. For years, they wanted to turn it into a series or a film, or series and a film, and so on and so forth. and it's been widely regarded as unfilmable because of the diverse nature of its approach to everything that it's the story it tells. It goes all over the place, and there's so many themes and just stuff in there that's so deep. Yeah.
Do you know who Ralph Bakshi is?
Ralph Bakshi, no.
I think they should give it to him, and it will be something most people hate, but I would love. He did the animated movie of Lord of the Rings, the cat, what's it called? Heavy Metal Wizards. Just a very, very acid riding out there animating film director. I'm not even sure if he's still alive, to be honest. But having seen what he did with Lord of the Rings back in the day, this unfilmable epic, and seeing him mesh these crazy styles and just get experimental with things, that would really like lend itself to something like this. Like a modern production of that style would blow my mind. But it's far too. You would
keep it animated then?
I think so. Or you could play with it. He did Cool World, and I know Cool World is a famous flop, and it is generally a bad movie.
Massively.
But if you ever watch the making of and see reviews, it does seem like studio interference fucked that one up.
Yeah.
His initial idea just sounded great, and just 2 days into shooting, they were like, "No, this needs to be PG." No, I think he was saying, like, Kim Basinger on set was saying, "I don't want to shoot this because I want my kids to watch it," and it just it got out of his control. I think, like a lot of his productions, famously plagued by other people kind of try. And maybe he's so out there and wacky, he does need the right producer. But I don't know. A lot of this stuff with modern VFX, I really hope there's going to be some beautiful moments in the TV show.
Yeah.
But I also think they have the problem. This is an awkward start to the series.
Awkward.
It's quite acknowledged. So I read the intro with not the showrunner, but the comic book the graphic novel producer. Her name is Karen Berger, and it was sort of just a nice intro, not super interesting, but just fun enough to read for 2 pages. I met Neil Gaiman and pitched me this, and then I met him up in London, and I said I didn't like that idea, but we want to. I think Sandman already existed very briefly and very vaguely, and she said I'm going to give you him, and all you have to do is keep the names, and you can basically rewrite everything. But the first series had a few issues, and she said it feels a bit awkward, blah blah blah. And then at the end, Neil Gaiman's doing an outro, and he basically says the same thing. Like, I think one of the artists left after an edition and a half because they were just butting heads on what they wanted it to be. He says he only really found his writing in the last chapter, the one that you missed in the audiobook. So this is made up of 7 editions that you would have bought collected, and he says he only really found his voice. And I sort of know what they mean. This is the shame if the TV show doesn't pick up and get good as far as memory goes, is that it's one of those ones where they need to get this issue out to establish what's going on.
Yes, yeah,
but it's sort of not the best. I guess, like, a lot of Terry Pratchett fans get that the Color of Light and Magic and the Light Fantastic when I was a kid were the famous ones, but it's like they're not that they're flawed, but they just get better. And don't be put off by not liking this.
See, that's interesting because I never picked up on the awkwardness of it. I really quite enjoyed, if I remember rightly, because it has been a while since I read it, and listening to it, I only realised that I didn't actually get as far as I thought I got listening to it when I looked at the Absolute Edition. Oh, we're talking 10 years ago.
Oh, Toby, what? I thought you read it like in the last year.
So that's why I said you should take the lead, in the sense that if we're going to, depending on how we approach it, if we're recapping or just skirting over like we're doing now and talking about different parts of it, it's up to you. What would you prefer?
No, why don't you talk us through the setup? I think we'll just say what we have to say. But why don't you talk us through the first quarter, get us up and running with the plot?
Yeah, so in essence, we open on an elderly guy who is like not an auditor, what's the word? Accountant for a very rich estate. And he's heading to meet his boss and have a discussion with him regarding certain facets.
You're fidgeting loads. You're right.
Sorry. No, I was just moving my. I just opened the book up to see if I could find names.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't.
That's
Didn't
fine.
get that far. So yeah, so we are introduced to the main character, one of the main characters, who is this rich guy who lives in sort of almost a recluse in a way in a really big manor house, and he's infatuated with eternal life and not dying, not aging, and he's come to the conclusion that the best way to not die is to capture death and then torture death or get death to give him eternal life. So we come in and they're casting this incantation to capture death, and it goes awry. And instead of capturing death, they capture her brother, Dream.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the keeper of dreams and sleep. And so
he's the titular Sandman.
Yeah, he becomes, exactly. So they capture him and they keep him in this basement for the better part of 70 years, if I remember rightly. We sort of montage through in the first couple of pages what is happening in the world while the Sandman Dream is captured in this bubble in a basement of this house. And he just resides in this place. He doesn't eat, they don't feed him, he doesn't drink water, he just sits there and says nothing for 70 years in captivity. And the more this goes on, the more frustrated the man becomes. He has a son. His wife leaves him and steals a load of stuff.
So Sandman, when they bring him through, Sandman has a bunch of objects with him.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah, he has a helmet, like a red jewel. What else does he have?
He has basically a bag of sand, like a little pouch of sand, like a red ruby necklace, and his sort of mask helmet thing.
Which is, the mask helmet's quite iconic. And I think the jewel, especially in this first Preludes and Nocturnes, is that episode where he goes to get the jewel back. It's incredible. But so he's in this basement and he's waiting for his moment to break out, and he feigns death. The old man has died and handed everything down to his son, who is taking over the mantle of keeping this man captive and trying to eke out the why is there a reason why he continues to keep him captive? And
he wants his powers. No, he's like, just turn over your powers to me. Like, I can still get your powers.
But he doesn't come across as a dickhead. He's just kind of inherited
the old man?
The brother, the son. Yeah. He kind of inherited this almost like a curse, and he just becomes scared of the ramifications of letting him out. So he just keeps him there rather than doing the right thing. And eventually something happens. I think there's this visitation, or he goes down in a chair and the wheel turns, breaks the edge of the bubble, and
he's sort of not runes, but it's magics. So he's in this bubble, and around the bubble on the floor is like a
trail of salt,
engraved circle of some sort of magic spell, which is what keeping him captive. And I think 50 years ago, he just says soon. Like, it's like, you'll never get out, and he doesn't reply. He just sits there quiet. He just says soon, and then eventually, they just very accidentally, very gently, just draw a mark on this circle, and
that breaks.
He sort of uses that to get out. I think, like you said, he sort of, I think he pretends to agree, maybe, or he says, "I will speak with the man now." When the two guards are just playing cards and he passes out, they sort of like, "Oh God, how long has he been like this? He's never done anything like before." And as soon as they open the door, he pulls a handful of dust out and just blows it in their faces, and they all drop down sleeping.
Yes, and then he jumps in and goes.
I don't quite know where he gets that dust from, but then he's free. I guess something that's happening in the meantime, we're seeing the effects of Dream being away in a snapshot of characters who were mid-dream state, or just about to dream. There's like 4 or 5 of them, and it just shows what he does and what the knock-on effect of him not being there is, that the dream state of the world is just gone a bit awry. Someone's caught in a coma, someone can't sleep. It just pushed these people into, like, a handful of people into a mental state who are just at the very wrong part of dreaming. But saying that, the world does go on.
Yeah, that's what I found quite interesting.
A pandemic of, No one's had a
Like
dream
sleep.
for 70 years.
Yeah, it seems to handpick who it affects, and I found that a bit weird, which may come back to what you were saying earlier on about it being a bit sort of yeah. But
early days with the storytelling,
and this is, I think this what I liked about this is that when he does come around, all these people start to wake up or
70 years later
fall asleep. And then it's about him going on a journey to get back all of his pieces, get his powers
Treasure
back. Hunt. Yeah, so he has to find the jewel, he has to find the helmet, he has to find the bag, and they're all kept in certain places. We meet a couple of other main characters that come back and forth and dip in and out, like Abel and Cain. I think their relationship is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers, those two. I don't know an awful lot about them, but they're quite familiar characters.
The first two brothers, huh? Is that the first murder in the Bible?
I don't know. Yeah,
I think so. But so one thing I didn't know, like, because I read all the other ones, I don't remember them being tied into DC, but this one well and truly is.
But Batman's in it.
Batman, the Green Lantern,
Constantine,
a fair amount. And some of them not heavy, some of them just sort of name dropped. I don't know how much they're going to be in 2 and 3, and I guess less and less till it becomes its own entity. I don't know if this is a case of, when in the Marvel films or when they're introducing a new character, sometimes it's let's introduce them during one of our popular films, so people are like lulled in.
Yeah,
they can advertise it as like featuring your favorite John Constantine.
Yeah, I think that's the different where the Amazon.
The TV show.
No, the Audible book. The book differs is they don't have the rights to those characters, so there's chunks that are missing. When I was looking back, there's a section with 3 weird wizards or witches and Batman. That's not in the Audible book.
Who are the witches? I assumed they were like Macbethian. I didn't know.
Yes, they are. I thought they were the Hecatean. All of that.
They keep changing their names. There's these 3 witches he has to sort of encounter. So they're not in it?
Not in the Audible book. Not because in the Audible book, with the bit that I'm at, we've gotten to the point where he's put this man into sleep, the endless sleep, and he's dreaming and having nightmares. I don't remember there being anything to do with Constantine or
but
any
did
of that.
they
just kind of
replace him? Like, here's a guy named John C. Wink. He's a sort of necromancer. But they, because that feels like a massive chunk of the book. Constantine takes up like two whole issues, I'd say. That's how he gets.
Yeah.
When he's in it heavily. It's not because some of them come and go
completely true, yeah.
in a page, but Constantine will come for he's taking center stage almost.
So that's interesting. But again, I haven't actually revisited that section in the Absolute edition. But in the Audible book, the guy that captured him, the son that's captured him, is in endless sleep. And I feel like in the Absolute edition, when I was flicking through earlier on, that doesn't happen till long after Constantine's been it.
Yeah. Is he Dr. D, the son? No.
That's no, Dr. D. Yeah,
okay. No, I don't know. I was sure, but now you've thrown me. I'm pretty sure he just puts the son into sleep straight away when he comes out.
Right,
like,
okay.
He just sort of gets like, oh, it wasn't me, it was my dad. That's sort of how that chapter ends of him and that family. He just puts him in. He puts him in that state.
But that's a horrible place to put someone. I remember listening to it and just being, oh God, yeah, no, thank you.
Within the book, the reason Constantine's in there is because he then is like, I'm in a weakened state. I think he goes home and his home is crumbled. I do love his gargoyles. And it's just, I just need to get my shit together. Like, he comes out naked in the world. So he's got the amulet, the bag of sand, and the mask, and just one by one he needs to pick them up. And I think the Constantine one is because he tracks one down. And because if anyone who doesn't know Constantine, he's like a DC hero himself. He's the necromancer that I think Keanu Reeves played him in a movie. And I think there's a pretty good TV show out there somewhere.
Yes, there is.
So I've read or heard. You know, it's sort of up Constantine's alley to have these things. I have a warehouse in South London. I think it might be there. So then they not get a cab. They use this little rider, and then it's not there, and they have to track down an old ex-girlfriend. How do they? And that's the bag, I believe.
Yes, it is the bag. Yeah.
So what's the audiobook do to cover the bag?
Well, he hasn't got any of those bits out yet.
Oh, I'm very confused with what the audiobook is.
So, like I said, I'm only a fraction of the way in to the audiobook.
I thought you were. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm super confused. A few moments later.
Okay.
Yo. Well,
Right.
the slight confusion I had is cleared up now. Something was just. Are we on the I just thought. I don't think I understood it. Like you know how we sometimes I'll read a book and you'll read a book. I don't know if you ever get it. I'm talking and you must be nodding, going, "Oh fuck, I don't remember that. I didn't pick up that." That's where I was a bit with this. I was like,
like completely.
I almost forgot Gaiman Abel because to me, it wasn't really like a big chapter. It was like, they're kind of fun, but it's like I was like, oh, maybe they're in it later. Like, did I forget?
No. So it's totally my fault. Having now just gone through the pages while you're making the coffee, I am literally everything I said prior to you being right was wrong. So I opened with the story and I got all of it right up until the point where I was like, Constantine's not in the audiobook, all of that sort of thing. It's because I haven't actually listened to any of what he's got to say, because the audiobook went end of book 1. I was like, well, that is the end of what Scott's reading.
It is confusing.
Preludes Nocturnes, but it's not at all. It's the end of the first section of comics that you highlighted and pointed out.
Editions.
So,
and since you have all 3 in one, that it is. If you're just doing it on your own, there's nothing wrong with it. If you're trying to talk with someone, I don't know, in a podcast, and you're trying to match up what chapters are, it might.
Yeah, it becomes very convoluted and very difficult to understand what the hell is going on. So I'm like, no, this is definitely not.
No wonder this thing is unfilmable.
Yeah, it's bloody podcastable. But saying that,
the setup's right.
The setup is right. I've got the first part of it right.
He goes on an adventure to pick up his lost ship. Pick up his ship.
So I need to read Dream a Little Dream and the rest of the comic to be able to give this its full dues. Definitely.
Do you want to hit pause? Just stop it here and then come back next week.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. I will belt through this.
It might even be worth just doing the whole thing again. Yeah, 1 week later. So I have the individual. No, I don't even have it. I have the collected volumes singularly. Yes. So this one is made up of 7 comics that you would have bought individually. And Toby has like these big leather-bound versions. So when I said volume 1, and especially because he was also reading it and listening to the audiobook, there's a lot of end of cassette tape side 1, but not part 1, but part of volume 1, but 1 of 3.
Yeah. Exactly that. So I got kind of confused and fell up short basically. So I revisited it, read it thoroughly, made some good notes. Well, some notes. I don't know if they're good notes.
How about, since we've already ballsed this up, pick it up from he escapes naked into the night from his captors. Go.
He finds his realm in disarray and despair, and it's starting to degrade and fall apart because he hasn't been there for 70 plus years. He speaks to Lucian, and Lucian tells him that what's happened, and that if he wants to find the 3 items that he's lost that contain most of his power, his best bet is to talk to the Witches 3, which is Hecate, and he summons the 3 of them and has a conversation with them, and they give him 3 questions. And he uses those 3 questions to find out the locations, or the rough locations, because he realizes that his questions aren't brilliant, where the pouch, the helmet, and the ruby are. And that then, the information he gets from that makes up the rest of the story going forward for this 7 comic run.
It's the journey to get his stuff back.
So the pouch is the information that they give him. The pouch is with Constantine, who is John Constantine. If you know your DC Comics, He is a fighter of demons and the underworld.
Is he a necromancer?
Necromancer,
Speaks to
yes.
the dead. It's John Constantine almost takes over the comic book.
Yeah, he does. When he's in it, yeah, definitely. The ruby is with a son who we've kind of been briefly introduced to prior to this via just like a cutaway of a mother turning up at a prison or Arkham Asylum, and she talks to her son and then leaves. And it's kind of just like sticks out like a sore thumb. Why are we here? And there's no reference to it. Then it comes back again.
It's just bookmark this info for later.
And that's where the ruby is. The dust is with John Constantine, and the helmet is with a demon. And those are the three locations for, I think. So the next three comics are almost devoted to a single story about getting each item back. Death Visit Constantine. What I liked about this was the early opening to it, because we literally open with Constantine waking up in bed. The music that plays on the radio is Dream a Little Dream. He's like, somebody's trying to tell me something. This is going to be one of them days.
He's no fool.
No. At every turn, there is something that tells him somebody's coming, be aware, And I liked that. I thought that was a good little setup. It's quite ominous.
Where are you with Dream at this stage?
How do you mean?
Like he doesn't say much. He's pretty moody. No. He's like the star of the show, but he's almost been in it the least, right? Like, when you describe those first chapters, if you've never heard of it before, you think they're going to be the key characters. Like we know more about the captor and his son. Like that first chapter, like you said, he doesn't say anything. It takes most of the comic before we even see the first image of him. And then it's like through a bubble, so it's his story.
Yeah. Sorry, I did miss out something from that first comic that was actually quite pertinent and really, really good, was that when Dream gets out and he gets into the dreams, the first person he visits is Alet, who is the son of the original captor. And he enters his dream and he basically says, you did this to me. I'm sorry you didn't orchestrate it, but you kept me there despite the fact that your father had passed. You need to be punished for this. I'm not going to kill you. You don't have to worry, but you will never wake up. Well, you will wake up, but you'll never wake up. And he puts him in an endless waking dream. The dreams where you wake up and you feel like, God, that was the worst dream I've ever had. Thank God it was only a dream. And then you realize you're still in the dream and something happens. And then you're still in the dream and it just that constantly over and over and over again for the rest of his life.
That scene,
terrifying. It's terrifying.
That scene at the end of Inception, where they have to like drop off a cliff just to wake up, to drop off a bridge just to wake up, to drop off the sidewalk, but endlessly snapping out of something.
It's horrific. The idea of that is utterly terrifying. And I think it's done really, really, really well in the audiobook as well. They realise it brilliantly.
Gothic horror moments in these comics. They're not really kids. I don't know. I think this is one of the first I ever experienced that were not, they're comics, but they're not really for kids. I guess that's what
they're horror novels.
The graphic novel section.
Yeah, definitely. So Jeff visits John Constantine and says, you have something of mine. I want it back. And he's like, news to me, mate. They work it out. They figure out that it's in a lockup. So they go to the lockup. It's not there. John Constantine then realizes, seeing a picture, that his ex, who was a junkie, probably took it with her when she left.
It's quite a guess, huh?
Yeah, but she did steal a few other items at the same time. And I guess if you've lost something and he
was never able to open the pouch. So to them, it was just, did he buy it on an auction or something? I can't remember how it came about it. He just thought this will be something good, but they never actually opened it because of, I don't know, magic curse, like it's, Sandman.
And she was always obsessed with him opening it, which is why she stole it. They find her in a worse for wear state. She's like a junkie that has been living off that and that alone and nothing else. But her state is nothing compared to the state that they find the father in. The way that the father is found is just mind-blowing. It's absolutely horrific. He is basically decomposed and become a globular, fleshy, wallpapery, covery thing that spreads around the room and reaches out and talks and stretches and moves and breathes but is it's just horrific.
It's like he blew up. And he painted the corridor but stayed alive in a state.
Yes, it's really nasty.
Like he's just become like a warning system. Like, don't go down there.
Yes, she's not right for you.
She is able to open the pouch, and she has just been flat out living off, I don't know, raw
lines
sand,
of dust. Yeah,
doing this like coke, sort of decomposed. Just, I guess it's the junkie statement from her, but she's just flat out addicted to raw pixie dust, like the dream dust. And it's just like wrecked her. I don't think she can leave, even if she wants to. She's just in bed, getting high off dreams.
There is a nice bit in which John Constantine's like, "Don't leave her like this. You cannot leave her like this." And Dream is like, "Okay, just leave, and I will sort it." And he basically blows some dust in her face and sets her back to a point where her and John Constantine were happy together. It's a dream state, but they were happy together, and she lived the rest of her life in this dream state. But the rest of her life is going to be a matter of hours before she passes.
Right, because she's got rid of the pixie dust stuff. Yeah.
So then we move on to book 4, which is Going to Hell, and this is where he goes to reclaim the helmet, and he literally, now that he has the pouch, he has the power to travel to other realms, and he literally travels to hell to meet Lucifer Morningstar and have a conversation with him. There is a bit of history about what's happened to hell in the time that he's gone, and it's been split up and it's shared by 3 gods now.
I'm never sure when he's taken something from historical text. Like, is this supposed to be like, I've never read Dante's Inferno? Is it like, is that a reference there? Although he is super creative, a lot of this does seem like it stems from something.
Yeah, knowledge of knowledge.
I totally wouldn't be surprised if there's like a Greek poem where there's, a guy travels to hell and there's 3 gods or 3 devils running the gaff.
And so he arrives at the gates house and he's greeted and he's taken to meet Morning Lucifer. There is a moment in this sequence where they are walking along the edge of a load of prison cells, and somebody reaches out and talks to Dream directly. That moment comes back massively in the next book.
Okay.
Hugely. It's what the whole next book is about, basically.
Oh, okay. Just a little foreshadowing, huh?
Really, really nice.
His guide, Elger.
Yes.
No, not the guide. Basically, there's a man/woman in a full white suit with the red hair.
Oh, that's Lucifer.
Okay, yeah. Like that. Just the Constantine movie feels like that took from that. Is it Gabriel? Tilda Swinton's character. Really visually reminded me of her, or vice versa. Like they took that.
The new Netflix series has cast the Game of Thrones actress with the big sword, the woman.
Oh, Gwendolyn Christie.
As Lucifer.
Okay, because I only found out recently when we were talking that the Lucifer TV show is from all of this world, right? So I thought maybe he was going to cross over in it, but I guess the character in this is different. I don't know.
So in this one was probably my least favorite of the reclaiming of the items, I guess.
Okay.
But in essence, he has a conversation with Lucifer. Lucifer's like, demons, which one of you has the helmet? This person comes forth. It's me. I took it. I've got it. But you can't have it back unless you beat me in a rap battle. So they go to a nightclub.
Gollum, huh?
Yeah, it went to a nightclub, and they have like almost an insult, not so much insult, but one-upmanship battle. If
very
words.
Gaiman. I felt very Gaiman, huh?
I am a spider. I am the snake that will eat the spider. I am the bull that will stand on the spider. I am the anthrax that will kill the bull. I am hope.
It's like a mental fight of words, but your words have to. You can't hesitate. Like the moment you hesitate, it's over.
You lost. Yes.
You need to have the creativity to one up. So I guess, for example, it's like, Toby, I am a gun and I shoot you.
Shit, I've lost.
Oh,
I'm rubbish at insult. I am a gun. Right, okay. Let's try it again. Okay.
because it's not quite insults, right? It's like an attack.
Yeah.
So I say, Toby, I'll go simpler. Toby, I'm the man in the alley and I have a knife and I plunge it for you.
I am the trainer that trains myself to deflect.
Yeah, I don't think you'd get the helmet back, Toby. All right, for our listener, Toby could have said something like, I am the shield that deflects your knife and crushes you into the wall. I thought
what would you have said to that? What would you have said then? I am the shield that deflects your knife and crushes you into the wall.
I am the stone of the war that protects and falls on your head. No, but look, I got further than you.
That's just as rubbish as mine.
It's a rap battle. It's a rap battle.
Yeah, it's a rap battle. And he wins the rap battle. He gets his helmet back. We move on. He leaves Lucifer. Lucifer has some sort of, as he's walking away, he says, "What makes you think I'm going to leave?"
I like this scene. This was a bit badass. A mic drop moment.
Yeah.
He's like, so that I guess they get along and there's respect, but the devil's the devil. So, and all of the demons have sort of come out for this show. So yeah, he gets his helmet and he's like, okay, I can't really hurt you, but I could keep you prisoner myself. What makes you think I love you?
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think Dream's just like, I am weak, but I have the power. Do you really want everyone in hell to lose the ability to dream?
What power does hell have if there is no dreams of heaven? Hell is only powerful because there's a heaven. If you take away the heaven from their imagination, then hell is just a place.
And they all just like, it's like the parting of the Red Sea, like millions of demons just go, yep, let them go.
Yeah, it is a mic drop. You're right. It's a brilliant sequence.
You didn't like this scene so much?
I liked that scene, but I didn't like that phase of. If I had bought that comic, I would have been like, "What?"
Oh, okay. I kind of dug it. Once the listener, here's a little in of just every few years, me and Toby will start and abandon random projects. Some years ago, we tried to do some writing project, and it was just going to be about a back and forth. So it was just a fun thing, but this is loosely kind of where I was headed, like a heist story around heaven and hell.
Yeah.
We didn't really talk about it because I don't know. That's why we didn't get very far.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think we tried to go in different directions too much. We didn't have a general. Yeah, but anyway, we digress.
Anyway,
yeah. So at the tail end of this book, we join Dee in Arkham Asylum, and he receives some news that his mother has passed away, and she's left him a trinket, which is an eyeball, like a good luck charm. So he breaks out of Arkham Asylum, and well, that's the end of the first book of that comic, which Going to Hell. Then we move into Monsters and Miracles.
Is Dee like a Marvel villain? I kept expecting a wink of like, oh, that's Dr. Death, like Dr. Doom or something like that. Like it really felt like he was established, and it's fine to not know who this book is. And I guess I could have not been lazy and Googled it, but it really felt like it was at some point he was going to pull out some sort of phantom mask and go, oh, it's that guy.
No, I'm not sure.
A version of him.
That's a good question, actually. I don't know if Dee exists outside of this version. If he's existed in other comic books before or not. Maybe a quick Google while I do.
Yeah, I kind of want to know.
So Dee, in this Monsters and Miracles, Dee breaks out of prison. We have a brief meeting on his way out the door with the Scarecrow, which is a DC character, a Batman villain specifically. We also... Can
I just get in there very quickly? He's like one of Arrow's villains. He's Dr. Destiny.
Yes.
And he was portrayed in the live-action TV show of Arrowverse crossover Elseworlds. So yeah, my point is, I guess he is a villain that's going to come and go. First appearance, Justice League of America. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So he is the person that has the ruby. So we've got the helmet back, we've got the pouch back. He's the one that has the ruby. So he's breaking out of Arkham Asylum, and then we jump from that into a really trippy dream of a character called Scott Free, searching for his name, and it's bizarre. And it just comes sort of out of nowhere. And I don't know who Scott Free is, but I believe he must have been part of the Justice League early on.
He seems like the man in the chair.
Mm.
Like the guy in a satellite who is just in everyone's ear radio-wise.
Yeah, the brains of
Mm-hmm.
Thunderbirds. So he's having a dream, and he's falling in this dream, and at the very last minute before death hits him, he's caught by Dream in the form of a baby. He wakes up, dreams in his bedroom, and he has a conversation with him and about where the whereabouts of the ruby. And Scott frees, I don't know, we had it but it went missing, I know somebody that might know. And he takes him to the Green Martian, who is again part of the Justice League, and
Martian Manhunter.
Martian Man. They seem to know each other or have had some history before, because of the way he greets Dream and sees Dream differently to the way that John Constantine and everybody else has seen Dream. I thought that was quite nice.
And Dream knows of his species, huh? Dream's like, I thought you were all dead. Yeah.
Yeah. And he shares the information that he kept it and was going to put it on a sort of display somewhere, but it went missing in essence, and they don't know where it is.
It's like the third time that's happened. All his objects.
It's not that they don't know where it is.
Oh, it crashed. It was in like the space station. No, the space station crashed.
Yes.
No, that's
how
a reference.
Did he get it?
I don't remember, if I'm honest.
D reveals you tempered. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, because doesn't he go to get it? Because the thing that he's given in the prison is like an eye. It's not the.
It's not the gem. No,
he's
that's in the next book though. Anyway, we find out that Dr. D has got it or has had it somewhere.
Oh no! Sorry, I can fill you in if you want.
Yeah, go on.
They think it's in a warehouse, and it's funny how sometimes Sandman's like, he finds it down to a warehouse it's likely to be, and he's like, no, that'll do, and disappears, and it's like it calls to him. But sometimes it's very convenient when the things are calling to him and when he needs someone's help with a computer. And so he goes to this place and he literally finds it stashed away like the Ark at the end of
that's it.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. And when he picks it up, it's just dark and it sort of reacts to his touch and knocks him flying.
Yeah, so D's tampered with it. That's what's happened. When D had it, he tampered with it and made it his own, messed with it so that only he could touch it. So when Dream does get his hands back on it, knocks him flying, as you say. D has this the whole time while Dream has been talking to the Justice League people. D has been traveling with this Rosie, I believe her name is, in a car. And when he got out of Arkham Asylum, she was the first person that he saw. So he jumps in her car, holds her at gunpoint, and forces her to drive him to this warehouse. And this was a really nice back and forth between the two of them. I thought it was wonderfully written, really poignant, and some nice
they honestly make D seem mildly sweet at times.
Yes.
And she comes quite sympathetic to him. Like he's wretched. He looks like a sort of golem, like he's like a burn victim, like no hair, like just or just crispy. I don't know, crispy, but he's just sort of naked and like monsterish. And she's like, "Oh, take my boyfriend's coat." Yeah. And they basically just sort of talk, and he becomes not coy, but I don't know, childlike at times.
Yeah, completely.
And then it ends in heartbreak.
Yeah, it does. He gets out of the car and she says good luck to him and wishes him the best and everything. And he says, is your boyfriend really part of the mafia? Because that's what the threat she used when he first got in the car. And she goes, no, not really. He's just a teacher. And he goes, well, I guess not that it makes much difference. And shoots her in the head.
Yeah, and then we're crashing back down that he is mad. Like they did a really good job at making us forget that he was just crazy villain just for like a few pages while they're traveling like this.
And then he enters a cafe, and that is the end of that comic. And we move into Waiting for the End of the World, which is the next one. And this one was absolutely wonderful. It's an incredible piece of work. And I've seen there's a short film out there on YouTube that is specifically just this section. And it was created. Oh, okay. It's really, really, really good. It's wonderfully well done. So Waiting for the End of the World. So D is sat in a cafe. He has the ruby, and his master plan was, and he told Rosie in the car on the way there, to basically fuck up the world. Stop them all from dreaming and turn them all crazy. Let it burn and become the ruler from a cafe. And rather than see the whole world going to shit, we see a microcosm of that in the cafe. 6 characters and how what D is doing is affecting them directly, and that is mirrored all over the world. And it's basically a descent into madness. It's a wonderful bit of comic reading, but it's quite horrific. It's a slow 24-hour descent into absolute chaos, and is wonderfully depicted through the artwork on the page.
It's very Gaiman. I mean, not just because it's the coffee shop, but just to give these, not minor characters, but a lot of them, not all of them necessarily, but a good handful of these characters, we just get this little vignette into their lives. It's genuinely quite interesting and rich, even though it's quite simple. Like I said, we can't go into all, I suppose, but there's 2 that stood out. Just the waitress is, I don't know, she has these, not illusions of grandeur, but just these fantasies.
She's a wannabe writer.
But just there's so many just nice little touches. Do you know what I mean? It just talks about her inner thoughts on the matter, about how she doesn't really publish them, but one day her daughter will come across them and she'll be like this undiscovered genius. And I don't know. I guess that's part of the dream state, because for her, that particular fantasy starts grandizing and becoming bigger. Like there's a couple on the phone. There's a woman on a phone who's had a fight with her girlfriend, and she's just trying to contact her. And just through like these half conversations on the phone, we again get this just these little rich details of these characters that are just really nicely done. And I think that's one of Gaiman's strengths for sure. Just putting this richness in these minor characters. It really reminds me of how I feel about like the Coen brothers movies.
Yeah.
Remember the scene in what's the one with the bowl cut? No Country for Old Men, when he's like,
yes,
flip the coin. He's like, what have I got to lose? Everything. Like that's just a guy that's like a sort of jokely guy at a store, and they just give him the right dialogue and just the right amount of attention to sort of like, this film could follow this guy for the next half hour and I'd be happy. Like you could just trail, and that's the stuff I really, really like Gaiman, and it stands out here in this one chapter.
So at the very end of this one, Dream rocks up in having woken up from being knocked out from the gem, rocks up at the cafe and basically says to Dee, what have you been doing? Stop this now. And then we move to the next one, which is Dream's End, in which there is a rather well-rounded, well-drawn out battle between Dee and Dream, in which Dream pulls Dee into the dream world, and they have a sort of back and forth chase across the dreamverse, trying to capture it, and Dee's just like blasting him with the ruby and the power that is contained within the ruby, which turns out to be the soul of Dream, or chunk sections of the soul of Dream.
Pure Dream.
He's put a lot of his essence into the making of this ruby to assist him in his job. And by blasting him with it, he makes him weaker and weaker and weaker. And he realizes, Dee comes to realize that this is where the power lies. So he crushes the gem, but by crushing it, he releases all the power that was contained within it, and it goes back into its original source, making Dream more powerful than he has been for centuries, years, like millennia. He's forgotten how powerful he was. And it's beautifully well drawn on the page, where at the end of the battle, you just see Dream, just this huge version of himself with Dee just in the palm of his hand, standing there looking up at it. And that was a great little end to that sequence.
Because there's a little fake out, huh? Dee smashes it, and we're only seeing Dream get weaker. And then it's just all white, and he has this moment of like, I've won. And there's this little bit of disillusionment where it's like, I thought there'd be people around. I thought I'd see it, but there's just a nothingness. I guess he thinks like, okay, I'm the king of the dream realm now. And then we sort of pull out and realize he's in the palm of Dream's hand.
It's wonderful, beautiful bit. So that's how he gets his gem back, and then we sort of, I guess.
I mean, that's the climax ending.
It returns Dee back to Arkham Asylum. And then we move into the last comic, which is The Sound of Her Wings. And we meet
outro, really.
We meet my first love, Death.
Oh.
And I love this bit. I think this is a wonderfully realized comic that has a lot to say about where it's going and what it has to offer going forward. The story, because we find Dream having achieved and got all of his lost items back, got all of his power back, fixed his realm, and he doesn't know what to do with himself. He's like
mopey.
It's very sort of teenage boy sort of.
Remember that Keanu Reeves picture when he's on like a park bench and everyone's like, "Cheer up, Keanu."
Mm-hmm.
And eating a sandwich. There's literally one of the panels on this. I thought that looks like like a joke, because he looks like the sad Keanu Reeves meme, just eating a sandwich, exactly, like feeding pigeons.
Yeah, and he just doesn't know what to do with himself. He's lost all sense of purpose because he's been away for 70 years doing nothing, and he's achieved everything that he spent 70 years dreaming of doing. What's next? And Death comes along and basically kicks him out of it. Yeah, and says, "Look, come and spend a day with me. You'll find purpose," in essence. And that's what this whole bit, the last book, is about. It's about finding purpose. We understand what Death's purpose is, what we do matters, which is exactly what High Cost of Living is all about. Is what Death does is matter. Why she does it. She, goes through the same sort of existential crisis that Dream's going through at this period of time. And she spends a day as a human to discover why death is. There is a reason for death, and Dream, by spending a day with Death, discovers that there is more to life than revenge, and he finds his purpose again and realizes what his purpose is, and that's kind of where it ends.
I mean, considering it's the outro and the story is ended. I don't know if this came separate initially, but it is cool. It literally goes on like a montage of Death. Take like the image we have of like getting hit by a bus and there's a man with a scythe, like those moments of people, like some of them don't realize they're dead, and she's like, "You need to turn around and look down." It's super fun. I guess we get that family snapshot of them. She's like, why didn't you ask for help? It's like, I didn't want to blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, you need to know that it's upsetting that you didn't ask. Like, people want to help.
And what I liked as well is he's like, they weren't. He says to her, like, they were trying to capture you, not me. And she goes, "Well, thank God they didn't capture me," or something along those lines. It's just like, oh, amazing. So that's the end of Preludes and Nocturnes.
I'm guessing you really love it.
Love it. Reading it again today, it just reaffirmed why I bought the original Absolute editions and went full in on it. Like that last chapter with Death was just great. Her perkiness and this just irreverent sense of way of looking at things, and just the joy she gets from what she does. It's wonderful. I think the whole stuff in the cafe is just incredible. Some of the cameos, Constantine's cameos, really nice. The setup is good. It's a very simple tale, but it's told wonderfully, I think.
Basically feel them finding their feet as they go. In this one edition, I feel. So I'm super excited to read the second one. I don't think I've read that, and if I have, it's outside of my memory. I dig this enough, for sure. It was like super exciting to read, and it was actually better than I thought it was going to be. I guess I just thought, I don't know, how much joy am I going to get out of a comic I've read when I was 15? Is it going to be that thing? Like, I've read a bunch of books that I went home and I've got a box of stuff from one of my teens.
Yeah.
And so, like, I pulled out a few books I used to love, and when I read them, I'm like, it's not that I hate them now, but it's like, yeah, I can see why I liked that as a teen, but it's not what I remember. Whereas this is almost the reverse. It's more than I remember.
Yes.
I'm trying to imagine what I would have made of all this when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But super nice moment. There's a moment where Dream has to travel, and he travels through people's dreams. Yeah, like halfway across the globe. And I hope Netflix does a good job with today's VFX and the fact that visually you can show anything with a bit of creativity. This could be beautiful. Ralph Bakshi, the guy who did the Lord of the Rings cartoon and Wizards and stuff. I felt like he had a shot of making a great, just out there psychedelic cartoon like this should be. I'm worried a bit that Dream is just going to look ridiculous on the screen. That a lot of this is just going to look, I don't know, pokey, I suppose. I don't know. I did see the trailer, which is like a quick montage of what we talked about in the first comic book.
And it looked good, I thought. I thought it looked almost frame for frame accurate at places.
I'd say almost more sinister than the book makes out, but I don't know if that's just the nature of the, the caricatures in comics. And
what I hope is they stick to the graphic nature of what you've got. But my biggest fear is that a lot of the characters are going to be copyrighted. So like Constantine, are they going to be able to access Constantine? Are they going to be able to use Batman? Are they going to be able to use the Justice League?
It seems like without that, it's too much of a change, which I can't. They could just do that non-brand name thing. Like this is Joan Constant Vine. I don't know. And he's, you know what I mean? Like he's a big punk fan and he talks with a Cockney accent, but they just don't use the brand name to get away with it. Netflix, the DC seem quite open with their material and characters. Like what they're doing with their DC universe is not anyone's game or anything, but we literally have this wider Snyder, what they call it, the Snyderverse, and that's got a Batman in it. And we've already had our own Joker movie, which is completely unrelated. And now we've just had a Batman in its own universe, which is kicking off its own trilogy, I believe. They seem pretty, and this is the way to go. I think stop trying to match Marvel with this universe building and just do your own thing. Be more crazy, insane, and experimental. Almost like what I thought the J.J. Abrams Cloverfield universe was going.
Yes.
Like, do something, do a small, intimate movie that's hyper budget, but make it good. I mean, it turns out that's all they got. That third one was rubbish, but
yeah, completely agree. I'm a little unsure of how I feel about them changing Death. Just not who I fell in love with. It was that perky nature, but
like she just literally her and Dream are basically twins almost. No, like they look like they're in a rock band. They just like she literally wears like a black tank top with an ankh medallion with just big semi bedhead, semi sexy hair, and I guess she's quite pasty and small. She's like a small rock chick, and Sandman Dream is just like a slightly gothier version because he has the trench coat. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I've reserved till I've seen it. I guess I've never really.
It has caused quite a furore on the message boards and whatnot. So, it'd be interesting to see how it actually manifests itself on the screen. I'm really looking forward to the series on Netflix. I must say.
I don't know how much they're going to cover. Like, because the problem with this is, it's like I was saying, it's not this awkward start necessarily, but the series to go is going to be so different to this one. You know what I mean? Like if we're talking about Death and this is one series, it comes in the last 10 minutes. Like it's not really a big deal, right? Like,
so it might take more of the massive, the whole story and take bits of it rather than follow it exclusively as.
I don't think you can do one episode per comic because people are going to be after the first episode, what you will. It's going to be like there's a guy in a bubble who doesn't speak, and how long does that last? 10 minutes. And I don't even know if they're doing the first couple of comics for one series. Like, is this enough for one series? Could this just be one episode, like an hour and a half episode?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Lots of questions.
I hope it's good, but I'll try and just enjoy whatever they have. I guess it's been unfilmable for so long.
Was it who's the actor from
Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Yeah, he nearly got it to screen, didn't he?
I think he did a lot of tests, right? As far as I know, just his direction was different to the studio's direction.
Always the case. Creative differences.
I guess you never know what they were. Like once it's out, I kind of want to hear what his treatment was.
Yeah.
What that differences was he wanted. Do you know what I mean? Maybe he wanted. You never know when the person wanted to just. What's his name? That Jodorowsky's Dune. That Chilean guy who's sort of super visual and off his, very trippy guy. There's a lot of things saying like, his film looked great, but it wouldn't have been a good Dune. It just would have been. That's why it's called Jodorowsky's Dune, because he hadn't even read the book. I think in the documentary you find out he really just took the spirit of what people told him and wrote his own story. Like it ended 100% different. It was, that book's already pretty out there, and his version would have been his psychedelic version,
right?
That kind of stopped having a lot in common with the book. And so a lot of people are like, yeah, I would have liked to have seen it, but it wouldn't have been the penultimate Dune. It just would have been a really expensive version of this wacky artist's version of it.
Yeah. Interesting.
So you never know where it's going to go. I don't know. Favorite parts of this? You're just going to say the end because death's in it and you fancy death.
Yeah, that goes without saying. So The Sound of Her Wings, I really enjoyed, which is the final one. Dream a Little Dream was very good, and Monsters and Miracles.
Oh, I don't know any of them by the names. You have to.
So Dream a Little Dream is the Constantine one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if that's my favorite. I guess just these different chapters are very vivid with themselves. Like he did a good job of, he's got 3 objects to find, and we don't just want to. At some point, it did feel like he was going warehouse to warehouse, but despite that, like we got a very cool visual of hell with all these demons. We got to hang out with Constantine, and then the finale in the coffee shop was very cool.
The cafe sequence was great. Yeah,
for a very low energy character, we got a lot of travel and space done with it.
Yeah. So I thought it's a great setup for what comes next, I think.
I'm trying to remember if he has any constant companions, because all his family are going to come and go. I guess my memories of some of them are that Dream is not the star of all of them.
Yeah.
Brief Life certainly is centers, like he's in it for sure, but the family start featuring a lot more, and it's
right.
My memory of that one.
I haven't got that far yet.
I will keep stum, but it's another character.
The ones that I've read, there's something to do with there's the person that was in the prison. Then there's a lot to do with Shakespeare. I read a lot of
there's a whole one that is like a play on Midsummer's Night Dream. I think.
That was really good.
That must be Dream Country then, the third one maybe.
Yeah. So that's what we'll bring to you next.
Doll's House next, I think. Is that right?
I believe so. Yes. Which would be really good because it has been a while since I read them. Like I said, just recapping over.
I don't think I've ever read Doll's House, the second one. I have no memory of it if I have, so that's kind of fun for me. I would say it's like the artwork is super nice in this. Like I know I said there's issues with the style changing within this run, but I don't know, like you get some cool, gruesome visuals which aren't over the top and they're not haunting, but the closer you look, like the hell, when he's at the gates of hell and there's like a fence made up of twisted bodies and skulls and eyeballs and like Dante.
I like the stepping stones. There's a bit with stepping stones up to his house or his abode. That's really nice. Yeah, there is. Yeah, and in the Absolute Edition, these are all much bigger.
That detail's a bit more. And I actually really like the villain in this, the Dr. Destiny, Dr. D, whatever.
Completely agree. Yeah, no, I felt the artwork is very much of its time, though. It does feel 80s. Yeah,
I was getting a lot of what's his name from Eddie Campbell and Alan Moore feel. You know what I mean? I guess they were sort of hanging around the stage, and I don't know when this was written in the 80s. Yeah, there were times when I could really feel like it's the Terry Pratchett influence.
Yeah,
like it wasn't too long before this he was writing Good Omens with Terry Pratchett, and there's I wish I'd written some notes, but there were just some moments that I was like, that feels so Pratchett-y. It was fun.
Yeah. So originally written, The Sandman was originally released in 1989.
Okay.
And ran until March 1996. Number of issues 75.
Check it out, listener. In case we give a spoiler heavy one on that one, but that's all right. Like I don't know. The fun isn't necessarily in the not knowing.
We've left enough out for it to be still very engaging to read and enjoyable. And that's our thoughts on it, I think. Excellent. So join us for the next deep dive.
Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode. And until then, support your local bookstores and have a great day.